After my brother died, my wife threw his widow out. Sad voice. The day everything changed, I never thought my life would split into two parts. Before that night, and after it. Before that night, I had a brother, a best friend, a piece of my soul. His name was Daniel. And after that night, I only had silence. Daniel wasn't just my older brother. He was the kind of man people talk about at funerals, but actually mean it. He was kind, patient, the type of guy who would stop his car just to help a stranger fix a flat tire. And his wife, Sophie, she was just like him. Soft-spoken, gentle, always smiling, even when life wasn't easy. They had been married for 5 years. No kids, but they had love, real love. The kind people spend their whole lives searching for. The night everything changed, I remember the sound first. My phone ringing at 2:17 a.m. No one calls at that hour unless something is wrong. Really wrong. I picked up, and within seconds, my entire world collapsed. Is this Michael Carter? The voice was cold, professional, a police officer. There's been an accident. My heart stopped. Your brother, Daniel. I couldn't breathe. He didn't make it. That moment, it felt like time froze, like the universe itself just broke. I don't remember dropping the phone. I don't remember falling to my knees. But I remember the silence afterward. Heavy, crushing, unreal. My wife, Laura, she came running from the bedroom. Michael. What happened? I looked at her, but I couldn't speak. The words wouldn't come out. So I just whispered, Daniel is gone. And just like that, everything changed. The funeral was 3 days later. Gray skies, cold wind, as if even the world refused to feel warm anymore. People came, family, friends, neighbors. They all said the same things. He was a good man. I'm so sorry. He didn't deserve this. But none of it mattered because he was still gone. And Sophie, she stood there next to the coffin like a person who had lost more than just a husband. She had lost her future, her home, her reason to smile, her everything. She didn't cry loudly. She didn't scream. She just stood there, silent, broken. After the burial, everyone slowly started leaving. But Sophie didn't move. She just kept staring at the grave, like she was waiting for him to come back. I walked up to her slowly. Sophie, she didn't respond. I gently placed my hand on her shoulder. She finally turned. Her eyes were empty. Not just sad, empty. I don't have anyone anymore, she whispered. That sentence, it hit me harder than anything else that day. And right there, standing in front of my brother's grave, I made a decision that would change everything. You're not alone, I told her. She looked at me, confused. Your family, I said, you're coming home with us. For a brief second, I saw something in her eyes. Hope, small, fragile, but still alive. But I didn't notice something else that day, something important. The way my wife, Laura, was watching us. Silent, cold, unhappy, and I had no idea that bringing Sophie into our home would soon turn into the biggest mistake of my life. Because grief doesn't just break hearts, sometimes it reveals the truth about people, and my wife was about to show me a side of Ray. When silence started to speak the first night Sophie stayed in our home, no one really slept. Not me, not Sophie, and definitely not my wife, Laura. The house felt different, heavier, like grief had walked in with us and decided to stay. Sophie barely spoke. She sat on the edge of the guest bed, still wearing the same black dress from the funeral. Her hands rested in her lap, tightly clenched, as if she was holding herself together. I stood by the door for a moment, not knowing what to say. Because what do you say to someone who just lost everything? If you need anything, I finally whispered. She nodded, but didn't look up. And that silence said more than words ever could. That night, I walked back into my bedroom. Laura was already in bed, lights off, but I knew she wasn't asleep. You didn't even ask me, she said. Her voice cut through the darkness. Cold, sharp. I stopped. She had nowhere to go, Laura. That's not the point, she replied instantly. You made a decision without me. I took a deep breath. She's family. Laura turned toward me. Even in the dim light, I could see it in her eyes. Something was off. She's your brother's wife, Laura said, not ours. That word, not ours, lingered in the air. I didn't argue, not that night, because I thought she just needed time. We both did, but I was wrong. The next few days, things started to change. Slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. At breakfast, Sophie would wake up early, make coffee, prepare simple food, trying to be helpful, trying not to feel like a burden. But Laura, she barely acknowledged her. No good morning, no eye contact, just silence. At first, I told myself it's grief. Everyone handles it differently. But then, I started noticing the little things. Laura would rewash the dishes Sophie had already cleaned, without saying a word, just doing it again. She would rearrange things after Sophie touched them, like something wasn't right, like something didn't belong. And one evening, I heard it. Sophie was in the kitchen, quietly washing plates. Laura walked in, stopped, watched her for a second. Then she said, "You don't have to pretend." Sophie froze. "I'm sorry," she asked softly. Laura crossed her arms. "This helpful act," she said. "It's not necessary." Sophie's voice trembled. "I just wanted to." "You wanted to what?" Laura cut in. "Make yourself comfortable here." That moment, something inside me tightened. I stepped into the kitchen. "Laura," I said firmly, "that's enough." She turned to me and smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was controlled, calculated. "I'm just being honest," she said. Honest, that word again. Sophie lowered her head. "I didn't mean to cause any trouble," she whispered. Trouble. That's how she saw herself now. Not family, not someone who had just lost her husband, but trouble. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling. Something was wrong, not just grief, not just tension. It was something deeper, darker. And Laura, she was changing. Or maybe she was finally showing who she really was. Days passed, and the house stopped feeling like a home. It became a place where words were few, but emotions were loud. Sophie grew quieter, smaller, like she was trying to disappear. And Laura, she grew colder, sharper, more distant. Then one night, everything shifted. I came home late from work. The house was unusually silent. No lights in the living room. No sound from the kitchen. I walked down the hallway, and then I heard it. Voices. From the guest room, Laura's voice and Sophie's. I stopped outside the door. Something told me, don't walk in. Just listen. You can't stay here forever, Laura said. Her tone wasn't loud, but it was firm, unforgiving. I know, Sophie replied quietly. I just need a little more time. Time, such a simple thing. But sometimes, even that feels like too much to ask. Laura let out a small laugh. Cold, dry. You've already taken enough, she said. My heart skipped. Taken, Sophie's voice broke. I didn't take anything. Laura stepped closer. I could hear it in her voice. Closer, sharper. You took his attention, she said. You took his sympathy. Silence, heavy, uncomfortable. And then Laura said something that changed everything. You're not the only one who lost someone. That sentence. It wasn't just about grief anymore. It was something else. Something personal. Something dangerous. I stepped back slowly. My chest tight. My mind racing. Because in that moment, I realized something I hadn't before. This wasn't about Sophie anymore. This was about Laura, her feelings, her resentment, her jealousy. And I knew deep down this was only the beginning. Because when pain turns into bitterness, it doesn't stay quiet for long. And soon, that bitterness was going to explode. When kindness becomes a crime after that night, nothing felt the same anymore. Not the house, not the air, not even the silence. Because now I knew what was hiding underneath it. Jealousy. At first, I didn't want to believe it. Laura, jealous of Sophie. It didn't make sense. Sophie had lost everything. Her husband, her home, her future. What was there to be jealous of? But the truth is, jealousy doesn't need logic. It feeds on feelings. And once it starts growing, it doesn't stop. The next morning, I tried to act normal, like nothing had changed, like I hadn't heard that conversation. But Laura, she was different. Calm, too calm, the kind of calm that hides something underneath. Good morning, she said, soft voice, light smile. But her eyes, they didn't match. Sophie was already at the table. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept at all. Morning, she whispered, barely audible. We sat together, 3 people, 1 table, and a silence so loud, it almost hurt. Then Laura spoke, casually, like she was talking about the weather. I think it's time we set some boundaries. I looked up. Sophie froze. What do you mean? I asked. Laura took a sip of her coffee. Slow, controlled. I mean this situation, she said. It's not permanent. Sophie immediately lowered her gaze, like she already knew where this was going. I never said it was, Sophie replied quietly. Laura smiled again. That same polite smile. Good, she said, because I don't want confusion. Confusion. That word felt wrong, out of place. There is no confusion, I said firmly. She just needs time. Laura turned to me, and for a split second, that calm mask slipped. And how much time is enough for you? She asked. I didn't answer, because I didn't have one, and she knew it. From that day on, things didn't just feel tense. They became controlled. Laura started setting rules, small at first, almost unnoticeable. Sophie, can you not use the main bathroom in the morning? I have my routine. Sophie, I'd prefer if you didn't cook. I like things done a certain way. Sophie, maybe keep your door closed. It's more comfortable. Each sentence sounded polite, reasonable, even harmless. But together, they built something else. A wall. And Sophie, she stayed behind it. She stopped coming out as much, stopped speaking unless spoken to, stopped existing in her own life. And me, I saw it, I felt it, but I hesitated, because confronting Laura meant admitting something I wasn't ready to face, that the woman I married was becoming someone else. Or maybe she had always been this way, and I just never noticed. One evening, everything reached a breaking point. I came home early. The house was quiet, too quiet. Then I heard something, a sound I hadn't heard since the funeral. Soft crying, not silent tears, not controlled, broken, deep, painful. I rushed toward the guest room. The door was slightly open, and what I saw made my chest tighten. Sophie was sitting on the floor, holding a small box. Inside it, photos, memories, pieces of Daniel. Her hands were shaking, tears falling onto the pictures. I can't do this anymore, she whispered. And then another voice. Laura, standing by the door, watching her. If it's that hard, Laura said calmly, then maybe you shouldn't be here. I stepped in. Laura, stop. But she didn't even look at me. Her eyes were locked on Sophie. This house isn't a place for mourning forever, she continued. Sophie looked up, her face pale, her voice breaking. I'm not trying to stay forever. Then don't, Laura said instantly. That was it. That was the moment. Something inside me snapped. That's enough, I said loudly. The room fell silent. Laura finally turned to me, her expression unreadable. You're choosing her, she asked. Choosing, that word again. This isn't about choosing, I said. It's about doing what's right. Laura laughed, but there was no humor in it. No, she said quietly. It's always about choosing. And then she said something that made my blood run cold. You just haven't realized it yet. She walked out, leaving the door open, leaving silence behind. I stood there between two worlds, one filled with pain and loss, the other with something far more dangerous. And for the first time, I understood something clearly. This wasn't going to end peacefully, because Laura wasn't just uncomfortable anymore. She wasn't just cold. She was preparing for something, and whatever it wasn't going to be small. It was going to be final. The day she crossed the line, there are moments in life that don't just hurt, they divide everything into before and after. That day was one of them. It started like any other morning. Quiet, heavy, unspoken tension floating in the air. I had to leave early for work. Before I walked out, I glanced back. Sophie was in the kitchen, making tea, moving slowly, like every step required effort. Laura stood near the window, watching, silent. Something didn't feel right. "I'll be back early," I said, more to myself than anyone else. No one replied. And for some reason, as I stepped outside, I felt like I was leaving something unfinished, something fragile, something that could break at any moment. And I was right, because just a few hours later, everything shattered. It was around 2 p.m. when my phone rang. Sophie. She had never called me before, not once. My heart dropped. I answered immediately. "Hello." All I heard was crying. Not words, not sentences, just pain. "Sophie, what happened?" Her voice finally came through, broken, shaking. She told me to leave." My chest tightened. "What?" She said, "I don't belong here anymore." For a second, I couldn't process it. She threw my things out. That was it. I didn't say another word. I grabbed my keys and ran. The drive home felt endless. Every red light, every second, felt like torture. My mind was racing. Please let this be a misunderstanding. Please let this not be real. But deep down, I already knew. When I pulled up to the house, I saw it. A suitcase, clothes, a small box scattered across the front yard. Sophie stood there, next to it, arms wrapped around herself, like she was trying to hold herself together. And Laura, she was standing at the door, watching, calm, unbothered. Something inside me burned, hot, sharp, uncontrollable. I got out of the car, walked straight toward them. "What is this?" I demanded. Laura didn't flinch. "She's leaving," she said simply. "Leaving," my voice shook. "You threw her out." "I asked her to go," Laura corrected. Cold, precise. I looked at Sophie. Her eyes were red, her face pale. "She said," Sophie whispered, "that I've stayed long enough. That was it." I turned back to Laura, and for the first time, I didn't recognize the woman in front of me. "She just lost her husband," I shouted. "My brother." "And I lost my husband too," Laura snapped. Silence. That sentence, it hit differently. "What are you talking about?" I asked. Her eyes locked onto mine, filled with something I had never seen before. Ever since she came here, Laura said slowly. You stopped being mine. I froze. That's not true. It is, she said. Every conversation, every moment, it's about her. I shook my head. She needed support. And what about me? Laura interrupted, her voice rising, breaking. Did I not lose someone too? For a second, I didn't have an answer, because she wasn't wrong, but she wasn't right either. Grief doesn't give you the right to destroy someone else. You had no right to do this, I said firmly. Laura stepped closer. Her voice dropped, cold again. I had every right, she said. It's my house too. That word again. Mine. I looked at Sophie, standing there like she didn't exist, like she didn't matter. And in that moment, everything became clear. This wasn't just anger. This wasn't just jealousy. This was control. And Laura had just crossed a line she could never come back from. I picked up Sophie's suitcase without saying a word. Where are you going? Laura asked. I didn't look at her. I'm fixing this, I said. Her voice turned sharp. If you walk out that door with her, I stopped, slowly turned. Then don't come back, she finished. There it was, the ultimatum. The moment everything came down to one choice, my wife or what was right. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I saw the truth. This wasn't the woman I thought I married. Or maybe this was exactly who she had always been. I turned back, walked past her, and took Sophie with me. Behind me, I heard the door slam. Hard, final, and just like that, my life split again. Not because my brother died, but because of what came after. When everything falls apart that night, I didn't go back home. Not to that house, not to Laura. I drove without a destination, just driving, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Sophie sat beside me, silent, her hands still trembling. Every now and then, she would wipe her tears quickly, as if she didn't want me to notice. But I noticed everything. After an hour, I finally stopped the car. A small motel, nothing fancy, but it was safe. And right now, that was all that mattered. I'm sorry, Sophie whispered. I looked at her, confused. For what? For all of this, she said. For coming between you two. That sentence hurt more than anything Laura had said. You didn't do anything wrong, I replied firmly. But deep inside, I knew something had changed forever. I checked us into a room, 2 beds, a quiet place. Sophie sat down slowly, looking around like she didn't belong anywhere anymore. I never thought my life would end up like this, she said softly. End up, as if everything was already over. It's not the end, I told her. Even though I wasn't sure if I believed that myself. That night, sleep didn't come easy. I kept thinking about Laura, about her words, her anger, her ultimatum. If you walk out that door, don't come back. Those words echoed in my mind again and again and again. And then my phone buzzed. Laura. For a moment, I just stared at the screen. Then I answered. "Where are you?" she asked. No emotion, no concern, just control. "Somewhere safe," I replied. A pause. "Are you coming back?" she asked. That question felt heavier than anything else, because I knew whatever I said next would decide everything. "I don't know," I said honestly. Silence, long, cold. Then she spoke again, and this time her voice changed. "If you choose her," she said slowly, "then we're done." Done just like that. Years of marriage reduced to one word. "This isn't about choosing," I said. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't true anymore, because she had made it about that. "You already made your choice," Laura replied. And then she hung up. No goodbye, no hesitation, just end. I sat there, phone in my hand, staring at nothing. Because for the second time in my life, I felt that same emptiness, the same silence that came the night my brother died. But this time, it wasn't death that caused it. It was truth. The next morning, everything felt different. Not better, not worse, just real. Sophie looked at me carefully. "You should go back," she said. I frowned. "What?" "You shouldn't lose your marriage because of me." There it was again. That guilt, that unnecessary blame. "I'm not losing anything because of you," I said. But even as I spoke, I knew something was already gone. Trust, respect, understanding. All the things a marriage needs to survive. And Laura had broken all of them. That day, I made a decision, not out of anger, not out of impulse, but out of clarity. I wasn't going back, not like nothing happened, not like this was normal, because some actions don't deserve forgiveness. And some lines, once crossed, can never be erased. But I didn't know yet that Laura wasn't finished, because when control starts slipping away, people don't always let go quietly. Sometimes they fight harder, and what Laura was about to do next would change everything one last time. The truth that set Emmy free sometimes. The end of something is not a loss. Sometimes it's the beginning of seeing things clearly. 2 days passed. 2 long, heavy, silent days. I didn't go back home, and Laura didn't call again. But silence doesn't mean peace. Sometimes it means something is coming, and it did. On the third day, my phone rang. "Unknown number," I answered. "Mr. Carter," a formal voice. "Yes, this is regarding a complaint filed against you." My heart stopped. "A complaint?" "Yes," the voice continued. "Your wife has reported that you left your home and are currently living with another woman." For a moment, I couldn't even process it. Another woman. Then it hit me. Laura. She claims emotional abandonment and inappropriate conduct. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath. So this was her move. Not just anger, not just control, destruction. "Sir, we'll need you to come in and clarify the situation." "I understand," I replied quietly. The call ended, and for a moment I just stood there, not angry, not shocked, just clear, because now everything made sense. Laura didn't just want control. She wanted to win at any cost. That same day, I made another decision. I went back, not to fix things, not to apologize, but to end it. When I walked into the house, it felt unfamiliar, cold, empty. Laura was sitting in the living room, waiting, like she knew I would come. "You came back," she said, a small smile on her face, but I saw through it. "I didn't come back," I said calmly. "I came to finish this." Her smile faded. "So you're choosing her," she said. "No," I replied. "I'm choosing what's right." She stood up, anger rising. "What's right?" she snapped. "Living in a motel with another woman." "She's my brother's widow," I said firmly. "She had nowhere to go." "And that's your problem," Laura fired back. I looked at her, really looked. "No," I said quietly. "It's my responsibility." Silence. That word hit harder than anything else, because responsibility is what she had run from. "You reported me," I continued. She didn't deny it. "I did what I had to do," she said. "No," I replied. "You did what you wanted to do." Another silence, heavier this time. "I won't fight you," I said. She frowned. "What? I'm not going to argue or defend myself or beg you to understand." I took a slow breath. "I'm filing for divorce." There it was, final, clear, unavoidable. For the first time, Laura looked shaken. "You're serious?" she asked. "Yes," her voice dropped, almost soft. "You're throwing everything away for her?" I shook my head. "No," I said. "I'm walking away because of you." That truth landed hard. She didn't respond, didn't argue, didn't stop me, because deep down she knew she had already lost, not me, but herself. I turned around, walked toward the door, and this time I didn't hesitate, because some endings don't break you, they free you. Months later, life looked different. Not perfect, but peaceful. Sophie slowly started rebuilding her life. She found a small apartment, started working again, smiling again. And me, I found something I didn't expect: clarity, strength, and a truth I will never forget. The people you stand for define who you really are. Because in the end, it's not about comfort. It's not about convenience. It's about doing what's right, even when it costs you everything. And if I had to make that choice again, I wouldn't change a thing. Because that day, I didn't lose a wife. I found myself.